Okay, so now we've talked about government bonds versus FD and which one should you choose, and we've already concluded that one. The other one to keep your eye out on is something that AMFI has proposed recently, a mutual fund voluntary retirement account scheme, which is very similar to the 401k plan which is there in the US, if you've heard of that. If you've not, we're going to do a detailed conversation of what this new development is with Mrin Agrawal, financial educator and founder at FinSafe India, joining us now. Mrin, hi. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I go on to the details of what this new development is, just give us a perspective of what is actually being proposed by AMFI here. What is this new development?
Thank you for having me, Mahima. So essentially what AMFI has proposed is a mutual fund voluntary retirement account, wherein essentially it's a retirement scheme. It's a voluntary retirement scheme where an individual can invest. There's also like an employer option, so it can be employer driven like how the NPS is at present, or the individual can decide to invest on their own. And the benefit really is that you'll get a variety of investments to basically choose from, which you can choose from based on your risk profile. And the idea is to basically, deepen the retirement savings in India, which of course today, there is a huge gap in the retirement savings of Indians. So the idea is to provide people with another scheme that they can consider for their retirement planning.
And Mrin, just want to understand as to how is this product different from the already available products in the markets that includes your pension scheme, etc., for retirement, which are already available?
Yeah, it doesn't look to be so different, honestly, Mahima, and that's where I think, the stakeholders will need to work towards seeing, how to keep this different. So at present, when I went through the details, what I find is that, of course, they're talking about tax incentives, and typical tax incentives that we see today are on investment and on withdrawals. The amount is taxable. They're talking about a lock-in, so similar to NPS where you have a lock-in up to the age of 60. They're talking about various investment options where you can choose between aggressive, moderate, and conservative. So I think, what is like really important is that, there will need to be some differentiators that the product would need to have, because, if you look at it today, an individual, you have the EPF, like for a salaried employee, the EPF, which is mandatory. And then you have NPS also, which most employers are providing, right? So I'm not sure that people are really going to have money left over to invest into a third scheme. And I think then, if that's the case and employer is providing both NPS and the mutual fund voluntary retirement account, then I think it's going to be a choice between the NPS and the mutual fund. And hence, there have to be some differentiators.
And considering that this is at a very initial stage, just want to understand, why would an investor go ahead and choose something like a mutual fund voluntary retirement account rather than going for an NPS or anything of that sorts?
So, I think, of course, tax breaks and cost is going to be a big consideration. So certainly, the NPS is extremely low cost, and I don't know whether, the mutual fund VRA, what sort of costs they're envisioning. I think one of the things that I was reading about the 401k is the fact that it, of course, is quite restrictive and it has pretty high fees. So I think, in India, if you have to make a product work, one, you certainly need to give nudges like tax breaks. And I think it'll have to be a tax break over and above what's already there. So, if you're going to say tax break under ATC, considering that the majority of the population today is filing under the new tax regime, that may not be enough to get a person to look at this. So you will need to see what is the sort of tax breaks that can be provided, because, of course, it's well known that, tax breaks work as very good incentives for people to start investing or to want to lock in into a long-term product, right? And the other thing is that it's very important. I think one of the key things that can really differentiate this product from the existing products in the market would be the flexibility on withdrawal, right? So like when you look at the NPS or even when you look at EPF, there are certain conditions under which you can do withdrawals, like for example, construction of house or medical purposes or education of child. or when you look at NPS, you do have the premature, the partial redemption or the premature withdrawal that's available, but you only get a percentage of the amount as a lump sum and the balance is invested into a pension plan. So I think one thing that can really differentiate this scheme from the NPS would be the flexibility to withdraw. And Mahima, we must remember that today a lot of people, and probably in the time to come, right, I don't think that many people are going to be working till the age of 60. So I think
Absolutely.
certainly the option to withdraw the corpus must be at retirement over having it at a specific age like 60, right? And that certainly, I think, could be provide a very big impetus to people to look at investing their money in the MF VRA.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. What you're trying to say is that for MF VRA, you will be able to withdraw money at any given point of time after the lock-in period. Is that reading correct?
I think right now, from what I read, they had mentioned 60 years.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm suggesting, that since this is just at a white paper stage, I think one of the things that they should seriously consider, and Mahima, in my own experience of doing a lot of sessions at corporates and talking about NPS, we see that the NPS adoption level is pretty low. And one of the reasons is, of course, the lock-in, right? So I think, what I'm hearing a lot is the fact that I don't want the money to be locked in till 60. I should get it on the day that I actually retire. And I think that can be a very big product differentiator.
And do you think there will be also rules and regulations with regards to which areas you can invest in? I mean, from a point of view of, let's say, if this will be stock market perspective, large caps, mid caps, small cap, there has to be some allocation, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, if this is for your retirement, there has to be some certainty as to how your returns are being protected. Any view with regards to this aspect?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be there. You have that in NPS as well. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be there even with the mutual funds. I don't think it's going to be like an open slate. I'm sure there are going to be certain limits and restrictions in place.
Mrin, you talked about how NPS is still not adopted by a lot of people in our country. Just want to understand what are the issues that you're seeing with regards to where retirement planning is concerned, because even I've come across this, that a lot of people who are making a lot of money are unable to actually plan their retirement well. They end up losing a lot of their money that they've, in fact, that's a hard-earned money that they lose. What is your view with regards to that, and how can that be improved?
So I think it's just this predisposition, because people are really not thinking about the long term. Everybody is just thinking like really, really short term in nature, like, okay, next 5 years, for example, but really not beyond that. And, somewhere, there's a big reliance on EPF. For some reason, people feel that at least the salaried segment, which I basically deal with, believes that, you can actually just make your retirement corporate through EPF. And EPF is a great product, right? I mean, to get, 8% tax-free guaranteed return is a great investment, right? But the point is, it can only get you that much. And given today the lifestyle costs, and the inflation on these lifestyle costs, right? So you're looking at somewhere around 7 to 8% being your inflation on your retirement corpus, because that's what the lifestyle costs are growing at, right? So certainly you need products that are going to give you a much higher return than what you can get in the EPF, right? And I think, there's too much of over-reliance on just the EPF and people really not thinking long term. Also, there's this big hesitation, which I hear all the time. Like, people say, how can I lock in my money for 30 years? And I'm like, you're buying insurance policies and locking your money for 15 years. You don't have a problem with that. Why would you have a problem with a product like NPS or any other retirement product that is locked in, right? And there are a lot of transparent products which are actually, of course, regulated and monitored and stuff like that, right? So why would you have a hesitation in locking in the money, right? And the other thing that I still see a lot is that people still, while there's such a lot of noise about investing in equities, at the end of the day, we know that at a household level, the equity allocations are really low, and people are still basically investing in very, very safe instruments as far as retirement is concerned. So, other than EPF, probably People are still looking at safer instruments only. And I think these are the main issues that are there. And I do believe that there requires a drastic change in the thinking process because one, the retirement age is getting lesser and the amount of money that you need is only growing. And if you haven't saved for it, then obviously you need to start saving in a very, very big way for it. So I think it requires a big change in the thinking process on this.
Absolutely, I agree 100% with you on this, Mrin, and that is a much needed message that we as a channel also want to pass on to our viewers. So thank you so much for those views, and of course, thank you so much for taking out the time and giving us all those insights, Mrin.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, with that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Your Money Matters, but do stay tuned. More news and updates on the other side.